Gotcha.
Okay. Okay. It says we are live, and I see the red light on, which always means like, we're here. But I am just super excited to have a play date and playground with Mayan Tran. Just so you know, everyone that's watching, Mayan and I are in a powerhouse mastermind together, and we're accountability partners. And we actually just got to know each other pretty recently, but we hopped on a call and we immediately just had a lot of synergy and connection. And she was sharing with me what she does, which is a love manifesting coach, which I'm like, that sounds like fun. I want to know more about that. And based on what she had shared, I was like, there's so much value here. Based on, the women that I talk to on the daily and the women who follow this and listen to these podcasts, I think we'll get so much value from hearing what Mayan, her own story and her experience, and some of her tips and some of her tricks that I think can really help anyone, not just women, but men and women who are either looking to attract the right partner or in a relationship and struggling right now and struggling with maintaining that intimacy and that partnership. So we've got a lot to cover. We have only 30 minutes because Mayan actually has another call that she's got to jump onto. So we are going to keep this tight. We're going to keep it succinct. I invite you, if you're watching but you're trying to do something else, I invite you to just put us down and listen. Like, we are more or less a podcast, so you don't have to be watching us to get value from it. And I also invite you to just enter this space with us in like a judgment-free, as much as you can, because we all judge, but as much as you can, a judgment-free way. Because, we're talking about stuff, and we were talking yesterday and we even felt a little bit like, ooh, I hope this wouldn't offend somebody. I hope this doesn't, we're inclusive here. We're going to use the names like men, women, but just trust whatever you identify with. That's cool. Like, that's welcome in this space. And so, but just tune in and enjoy. And I want to now have Mayan share with you a little bit of her story and how she came into be of this space of being a love manifesting coach.
Thanks, Lauren. I'm so excited to be here with you. This is so fun. I just love your energy and, like you said, kind of the synergy between us. So super excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm excited to chat. And so how I became a love manifesting coach is, I became a little bit obsessed with manifesting. And when I learned about just the law of attraction and how that actually works, and started applying it in my own life to win certain things. Like, I had won a bunch of different contests. I won a free trip to Maui for a retreat for a whole week. And, seeing how the principles and the ideas, the concepts really do work when you apply them, when you understand them. And when I started working with clients, actually, it started because I went on my own personal journey. I had worked in corporate for a really long time and did not enjoy it at all. But, it was like the golden handcuffs. You made a ton of money. Yeah, right?
It's hard and golden because
but it's tied you down. You kind of feel like you're in jail, but like the nicest jail, and you feel guilty about wanting something more because so many people would love to be in your position regarding that job too, and so I had that conflict within me for a while. And eventually one day I was just like, there's got to be something more that I can do, something more that I felt like was more meaningful for my life and that I could really make an impact in the world. And so I just started taking a bunch of different classes like yoga and art. And it's like, okay, maybe I've got some skill that I haven't quite discovered that I had, in my 30s. And so I started, going down that path and stumbled upon feng shui. So it's like the ancient science and art of placement, it's that Chinese practice. And so I started doing that for myself, and it blew my mind. It was like, wow, my space was reflecting how my life was going. And when I learned about like different areas of your life actually reflect different areas of your home and vice versa, I was like, this is powerful stuff. And so I started sharing that with friends, and then they were
Wait,
all like,
can I pause you for a second? Because I have a
yeah,
question about that.
yeah.
So what was it when you first started noticing and doing the feng shui?
Mm-hmm.
What was your space at that time looking like that you felt like it was a reflection of what was happening?
Ooh, such a good question. So for me, I was married at that time, and we were trying to have kids. And one of like the things that you learn is that when there's a space in your home that is not being used, it's actually reflecting that space as like a void in your life as well. And so there's a
Ooh.
way that you can like map out your home to map out these 9 different areas of your life. And so the area in our home that represented children, it was like we did not use it. It was supposed to be a dining room. We used it, we put like a bar and like a couple chairs, but we never used it. It was more of like a hallway for us where we walk from one room to the other. And so when that like showed up as I was doing this work, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, it's so accurate in terms of
Here.
what was going on in our life. And so that was what was happening for me personally. And then I would see, and so I started working with clients, and I would see, and they were mostly women, like single women who wanted to be in relationships. And
Mm.
there were patterns of how they would decorate their space to reflect their singlehood. And, you know,
Give us a few of the nuggets. I mean,
yeah.
some at the level.
Yeah. So I saw there was one woman who had all of her artwork in her home were of like these single, like really powerful characters and women. So like Wonder Woman, and so like super cool art. And that was like also the vibe that she was giving off was like, I'm an independent woman. I don't need anybody. I'm strong enough as I am, and when I brought that to her attention, she was like, yeah, that is what people that is what suitors and men, say about me, is that this is what happens. And
Wait, ladies, listen up here for a second, because I know there's many of you, and call yourself out if you want in the chat, that identify with this as a strong, independent Wonder Woman, and kind of you conquer it all, you do it all, and maybe in your dating world,
yep,
people have said to you, you're kind of intimidating. Like you kind of have it all together. Where is my space in this? Because
exactly.
you're doing it all. All right. I just
Yeah.
had to name that.
And that's the vibe you're giving off, right? And then the person is like, who, like, are you even looking for somebody or wanting to be with somebody to share your life with? Another piece that I would see was like having a single nightstand, like a one night stand, like very symbolic of having one night stands. So, as a tip, if you want to call in a partner, a simple thing would be having double, like two nightstands, like one on each side of your bed, two lamps, so they're like matching, or they're part of a pair, right? So it's like that symbolic energy you're putting into your room, your bedroom, that this is what you're calling in. So
I love that. It's like it's already making space. I'm not assuming it's just me and my nightstand here.
yeah.
There's a balance. It's waiting for you.
Yep, exactly. I'm
Nightstand. There it is on the other side. There we go. There's two of them.
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
So I also want you to share a little bit about because you were married. This was an aha.
Yeah.
And then what happened? And because I think a lot of women are in, like I said, in relationships, and they're maybe questioning, is this the right one? Do I stay? Do I go?
Yeah.
It's a hard place to be in.
It is a really hard place.
Or golden handcuffs.
Right? Which one's harder? Yeah, so I was married for almost 12 years. And, I think personally, I think everyone's story is different. Mm-hmm. For me, it was like we had met so young. We had met when we were 20. And at that time, I honestly didn't even know who I was, and like, what was I looking for? And when I grew up, it was like, oh, like this is who I truly am. And I think one of the catalysts, and there's a book called, oh shoot, now I can't remember the book.
It's okay. You can put it in the comments.
Yeah,
What is
it's
it?
called Coming Apart.
Coming
Coming
apart.
Apart. And it talks about, when relationships end, kind of the reasons, or it gives a lot of insight as to why. And one of the reasons that it listed was when you move away together, it actually can be the catalyst for you to come apart. And that was the case for us because we had grown up together, in back in the DC area. And so all of our family, friends, jobs, like everything was rooted and enmeshed together and tangled together. And then when we moved cross country to California, it was like we had to start over. We didn't have any friends. So we both each had to discover who we were. And when we did that, it was like he went this way, I went that way. And those two worlds just didn't
I think that
collide
happens
anymore.
so often. I think that's why a lot of times people maybe stay in a relationship because their roots, and they're like, well, we have this past and this history.
Yeah.
But like always asking, well, what's the quality of the relationship today?
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. Like I think a move creates a forced function of leaving. Like that was that friend, that community, like all of that was so much of the threads that made the bond
you together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it accelerated that process, and it really shined light on this is who you are, like truly. When you didn't have all the childhood things that you've known, right? That your identity, when you've created a whole new identity for yourself as an adult, who are you as people? And so we went to, I mean, he's an amazing guy. Like I still think he's awesome. He's like the kindest man, and it's just we're on different paths. And so for me, what helped was I needed to be right. Like there's a term called pono where you're right with yourself, you get right with yourself. And so I needed to get right with myself. Okay, is this the path I want to go down the rest of my life? Like, is this how I want to live? Knowing that our vision, our values are not exactly aligned. They're actually going in kind of different ways. And we also went to counseling for a while and saw a couple different counselors, so I knew, like, I needed to know that I did everything I could. And
you exhausted all the barriers. You're like, I've tried, I really have. And now I know this is who I am. And I think that's so key. I think people, a lot of times when they're feeling stuck or struggling, they are looking outward for the answer. Like they're asking other people for advice.
Validation.
Should I go? Should I leave? And everyone's going to project their own life experience or their own values, which can actually create more confusion.
Right. Yeah. And they may have, their own like motives for why you should stay together or not, I mean, out of love, obviously.
Right.
But like,
exactly. Intentions are good, but what's the impact?
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately it's like within your heart, you got to get in touch with what's right for me. And this is
so what happened? This
is your life, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we decided to separate and get divorced. And so that was it was a huge scary step because what was on the other side was so unknown. And like my entire life felt like it was turned upside down. I went from having a house to moving in with a friend, and I ended up deciding to give myself like 6 months to just go travel and have fun. And so that was amazing. I went to Bali, I went to Tulum, I went across like all different parts of the country just to visit friends. And so
having that time to yourself, was it really important to your journey of clarity and confidence?
It was, because it was for me, I had for so many years lived my life according to what other people's expectations were of me. And maybe they didn't even put that on me. Maybe it was just my own perception and responsibility that I felt like I needed to do.
And that's a heavy jacket, isn't it? Like it's a really heavy jacket. I've worn that jacket a lot. And I'm like, I just don't think I want that anymore. Like I'm ready to give that jacket away, put it in the donation pile.
Right? Yes. And I did. I finally took it off and got rid of it. But yeah, I felt like I had been living someone else's life. And so when I decided I'm going to go travel, it actually set off a whole train of different experiences where I ended up quitting my corporate job, and I, moved to different places to where I wanted to live too. And so it gave me that confidence to be like, okay, this is your life. Like, you get to design it and live it however you want to live it.
Right.
And yeah, so it
It's huge.
was scary and it was amazing.
And I want to call out that yesterday when we were talking a little bit, I was digging deeper into Mayan's personal story. I remember asking you, because you said, oh, and we got divorced. And I'm like, I'm curious, who left who? How did that, who filed? Like, how did that kick off? And share with everyone, who was it?
Yeah, I mean, I had requested it because in my hearts of hearts, I wanted to, and I knew I could experience the type of relationship that I really wanted to experience, like a true partnership that I didn't feel like we could create that, and just from the core of who we are. Not that you can't try to, you can like put in all your effort, but the foundation, if you're two completely different people who don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, it's gonna make it so hard, So I think that foundational piece of like knowing who you are is so important.
And I think it was so, because we were then right before this talking about, because I'm like, when you said that, I was like, ooh, that took courage. That must have been scary. Like, you're literally letting go of safety and your security and what you know for a life of you don't know.
Right.
And, you just had asked me, well, Lauren, didn't you also, you're divorced? And I'm like, no, I stayed in it, and my ex is the one that filed.
Mm.
I find this comes up a lot actually with women trying to decide, like, what should I do? Which way is the right way? And no one likes the answer, because there's no right or wrong way.
Right.
The right way is what's aligned with you, right? Whatever what you're saying, that Pono, is that right?
Yeah, Pono, yep.
Pono.
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
Everyone has, I remember in my situation, people were like, oh my gosh, you need to be, how are you still in that? You should be divorced. You should file. You're going to feel better if you file first. It's going to make you feel strong and confident. And I was like, something, and for me, felt like that was abandoning who I am at my core, right? For me, it was like this value of, I'm committed to this, and I'm going to focus on what I can do to be my best version of myself. But to go and do what others were saying to me, living up to other people's expectations, also felt like cheating on myself, which sounds like you felt like staying in it felt like cheating on yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we're saying the same thing, that like we get to connect with, okay, what's true for us, the right, quote unquote, right thing for us to do, and to follow that regardless of what other people, whether they may agree, disagree, or have things to say about it. Like, at the end of the day, it's your life.
Your journey.
Yep.
So I want to shift us and hear a little bit more about the steps that you took, those 3 essential keys to attracting the partner who you're with now, and how you've also seen how it worked for you and have helped other women now in their own journeys. And when you shared them with me, by the way, I was like nodding and smiling so much, because I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Like, they are so true. They're not genius. They're just true. And it takes work and it takes time. So go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, so I think most women, or even men, it's like, you want it to be easy. You don't want to have to put in so much effort to like find somebody, or like go on a search to, find this person. You want to be what I call magnetic, and just draw them in and attract them into your life, versus you being the one who's like, I got to do this and that.
Hustle, the energy of that feels so much more like hard
and forceful, right?
Yes.
So I'm all about balancing the masculine and feminine, and so for me, it's like, okay, if I want to draw this person in, I get to tap into like my feminine energy, right? And as well as my masculine. It's like it's tapping into both, not just the masculine. So the 3 essential keys that I've seen in my own life and have helped shared with others too is, number 1 is to be clear, like have clarity around the type of relationship that you truly want to have, right? And I'm talking about like beyond the surface, like, oh, he's got to be tall, dark, and handsome. You know, like obviously you want to be attracted to this person. However he looks to you, it's individual, right? What you're attracted to, but it's ultimately the feeling that you're after that we want clarity on is, okay, if you're saying you want somebody who's 6 feet tall, you know, dark hair, what's the feeling behind saying that?
Right.
It's because you want to be attracted to your partner. You want to find him so hot and sexy, right? Like, so focus on that. Don't focus on kind of the superficial qualities. Focus on how you want to feel and begin.
You might be surprised that it's the blonde one that you didn't think, but you've opened up now the door because I just want to be attracted to that person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so getting clear on what you want, and like different things, right? Attraction is one area that you want to think about. So it could be, okay, how do I want to feel when we, let's say like physical touch and affection, like how, like in that area, what's important to you and how do you want to feel? Like, oh, I want to feel adored. I want to feel appreciated.
I want to feel secure and safe and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. So
actually, after our conversation yesterday, I did pull out what I had written in my journal, and I thought I would share it with you and see what your thoughts were on it. Because I think just this is me really putting myself out there. But when I reread it, I was like, it's a lot of what Mayan was saying. So it says, what do I want in love? And I'm happy to post this as it's actually like the handwritten stuff right here.
Nice.
My partner needs to be self-assured, but humble. Attentive, selfless, and generous. Authentic, honest, open communicator, trusting. In search of or ready for unconditional love. Mature emotionally, humorous, adventurous, intellectual, and fun. Spiritual and committed to growing and getting better. Responsible, supportive, nurturing, thoughtful, very thoughtful, and patient. Make me feel safe and not going to leave me. The journey through life helps us discover and remember what home looks like. Life is home. And I wasn't saying what I wanted to feel, but I wanted to get your thoughts on like.
That's what, so I love that. It's beautiful. And I think it's very clear that the person that you had wanted to call into your life, like had these very specific qualities and they're beautiful. And I would take it one step further. It's like, okay, so read me the first line again.
My partner needs to be self-assured but humble.
Okay, self-assured and humble. Okay, keep reading. Read me more.
Attentive, selfless, and generous.
Okay, so there's a few different qualities in there, right? So I would expand that out to be like, okay, if he's generous, what does that look like inside your relationship? How does that make you feel? How do you feel to be with a generous partner?
Yeah.
So it's like,
and I feel more like free myself because there's just this level of like being, and when he's generous, I can be generous with love, with time, with all sorts of parts of what generosity looks like to me, right?
Yeah. So really like expand that out. And, you know, if he's self-assured and humble, like, how does that feel? Like, oh, like I feel so like, when I hear that, I'm feeling like lucky, right? Like I'm with this like super, you know, capable and self-assured man, and he chose me, right? So like I just feel this like, ooh, I won.
Yeah, that's so true. And I do have a line that people are with someone based on how the other person makes them feel, which is an interesting concept because it's like someone else shouldn't be responsible for how you feel.
Sure.
But it also is important to notice, is that person energizing you or depleting you of energy? Are they like, how are you feeling? I mean, energy is everything, right? We talked about this in terms of manifestation and vibration.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. There was one piece too that you had said at the very end, I think you said that he's not something.
Okay, let me see. You wrote. Open and honest, mature emotionally, humorous, adventurous, intellectual, fun, spiritual and committed to growing and getting better, responsible, supportive, nurturing, thoughtful, very thoughtful. Oh, this is the one. Make me feel safe and not going to leave me. The fear of abandonment. Don't leave me, even if I'm not perfect and I'm not enough. Don't do everything the way I'm supposed to. Can I just be messy and you still listen to me? That's what I was saying.
Okay, great. And so when we do this, we're talking to our subconscious mind, and the subconscious cannot process negatives. So when it reads that, don't leave me, do not leave me, it actually focuses on leave me.
Right.
You know, so like
Yes.
you can't think of not leave me without thinking of leaving me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to focus on that one piece. So I would say flip that around. It's like, okay, what's the opposite of not leave me? Like, he's so
Committed
loyal
for life, loyalty. Yeah, that's
so he's so committed to me that, you know, we're in this together. We're in this for the long haul. Like that's the energy that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
also,
back to some of the what's that?
Also, like accepting, right? Like loving, accepting, celebrating who you are. Like that.
Yes.
That's the essence of what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that does fold into some of what we were talking about with like the masculine and feminine. It's like accepting, allowing. Like that to me was so important in calling. And I know that you've got Mayan's got to leave actually in a few minutes, so she's going to peel off. Before you do take off, I wanted you to give a chance to share like you have a guide that talks about the 9 ways to attract a partner, right? And
you do. Yep. I do. And I wanted to kind of close the loop on the 2 other things too. So in case someone's like taking notes, I don't want to leave them hanging.
I know.
So the first piece is clarity, right? Like being super clear. And in terms of how you want to feel, right? Like that's the important piece, is like, how do you want to feel? Because everything we do is because we want to feel a certain way. We want to make money because money provides us something that allows us to feel freedom, or, you know, being able to contribute to others. Like there's a reason, and the reason is the feeling. So that's number 1. The second piece is confidence. Like to become magnetic, really develop that self-worth, that self-confidence, so that you know in your bones that you are an amazing catch, right? And so when you know that, and know that like people who show up for you better recognize it, or, you know, you don't have time for that. Like that's the level of confidence you get to stand in for you to magnetize and attract somebody. And if you don't feel that way right now, it's okay. You know, like I've had to take some steps to get there myself. And the guy that you mentioned, actually, I provide some steps and ideas for how to get you there. And then the last piece is energy. Like, how are you showing up in everyday situations, every interaction? How do you show up? Doesn't mean you can't ever have a down day. And it also means you get to manage your energy, right? And like be mindful of it, so that you're elevating your energy before maybe you go into these interactions with people. And also, like, if you want to feel, and we talked about this yesterday, like if you want to feel passion in a relationship, like how do you get to show up in your life living passionately now without the partner, so that you're already feeling it? And then when that partner comes, is just going to amplify that feeling that you're looking for. So
you'll know, because it'll feel like a fit.
Yes.
It's like, and what does passion look like? Like, how do you dress when you want to be passion? What would be your facial expression? Like, how do you carry yourself? And that's different for everybody, right? Like that's uniquely you.
Yep.
So
yeah. So those are my 3 keys to becoming magnetic, so we can attract the right partner for you.
So clarity,
confidence, and energy. Yes. And the free gift that I have is actually at my website. So mayantran.com/free gift. Pretty easy.
Okay, I will post it in the comments after. I don't know if it doesn't really let me while I'm on the live. So I'll make sure we post that in the comments. If you want to grab the guide, you're welcome to. May, and this has been so fun. Thank you for this play date.
Super fun. Thank you for having me. We got to do this again.
We'll definitely do this again. There's so much more there. We just scratched the surface.
I know.
Yeah, well, we'll do it again. We're not going anywhere. We are partners, accountability partners.
Yep.
So yes, thank you, and good luck on your next call. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Bye. You're welcome. All right, I will hang here for just a bit to close this loop because there was still other stuff that we said we were going to talk about that we didn't even necessarily get to. Some of it being the masculine and feminine energy. And I will invite Mayan back on to talk more about this. But this is the whole concept that she was touching on, kind of with that feng shui and that, you know, strong, independent woman that like knows what she wants and she's just going after it. And when we have a lot of that, that is a very masculine type of energy. That's the doing, that's the like attacking, you know, you can just feel it. If your energy is way up here, life is about balance and duality. So someone else that's there with you might be clashing. They don't have space. They're not going to feel comfortable. If you're in fact wanting a partner that allows you to be more in the like receiving mode and relaxed mode and not trying so hard. And so I think it's something worth thinking about. Mayan and I had been talking about on apps that when she had her dating profile, she got to a place where she's like, you know what? At first, I'm only picking the men who have chosen and liked me. And so by default, I'm whittling my pool of people. Like she was like, I want to go out there and start choosing and liking those that I want. And I laughed and I said, I have a differing perspective. And this is what I love. I love just different perspectives and sharing and unpacking it. I'm like, I felt like I had been in such a hustle mode in my life and I'm always going for what I want. And I'm always, you know, if I see someone at the bar, have the confidence to be like, hey, like, let's go have a drink. And so for me, when I was doing the dating apps, I was like, I'm not going out there and trying to find the people and like the people. If someone wants to acknowledge me, I'm here and I will then see if you're a good fit. And it was just a very different mindset and way. And it was part of my discovery and my journey of what I want. And it helped me realize, you know, the kind of partner that I was looking for so I could attract that in. And so just being mindful of that balance and that composition of your energy, of your masculine and your feminine. This stuff, if you have anything, if you have read about this or you have stuff to share on this topic, like I love this. I could soak this stuff up because I think it's fascinating. And I think that in our life, I talk a lot about connection and how there's these different buckets of connection, you know, your physical connection, your intellectual connection, your emotional connection, and your spiritual connection, the pies, which I always want to credit Marriage Helper. They helped me uncover and unpack this. The pies within each of those, there's your masculine and feminine in a relationship with a partner. So in the physical way, like, are you taking on more that masculine energy and role when you guys are having physical connection and intimacy? Or are you not? Are you taking a step back? Or does it change just depending on mood and you guys actually connect and dance together and it flows? Same thing with mental. Like, is it always, you know, you're just listening to someone else's ideas and their way of view of the world and their belief system? Or are you also contributing? Are you also having a very strong viewpoint? Or do you kind of sit back and take more of the like feminine energy approach there and give that space to your partner? Like, where do those pieces fit? Same with emotional. So are you, and for my case, like for emotional, I feel like it's actually pretty balanced. Like I definitely am with my feelings and we'll talk about them, but eventually it gets a little too far and I'm like, all right, like enough is enough. We got to get into the doing mode. But for me, it was really important to find a partner that allowed the space to be in the emotions, that gave me the opportunity to be in my feminine energy, which is more vulnerable, which is more in the space of like, I'm making space for my emotions. And I had that come up this morning because Mayan and I spoke yesterday. We connected on some of the topics we wanted to unpack. And it stirred up so much stuff in me. I woke up this morning at like 5 a.m. with all this anxiety kind of and thinking and overthinking in my head. And what was such a beautiful thing is, you know, I turned over to my partner, to Eric, and I was like, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, I'm feeling like all this anxiety about wanting to be, you know, a certain way. And basically was like, I don't want to burden you though with all these feelings. And it's a lot going in my head right now. And, and there's a part of me, the masculine part, that just wants to shove it away and not be difficult and not, you know, ask for too much and just be easy. You ever do that with yourself where you're just like, I want to be easygoing. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be difficult. So I was kind of in the moment calling myself out on that. And he, to his credit, was like, what's there? Like, keep going deeper, talk about this. And so giving that space for me to talk about it and kind of sift through the mess of the feelings. And I'm like, I trust you in this relationship. I trust that you trust me. I trust that you trust you. I'm like, I think I'm not trusting myself in some ways. I'm like, that's interesting, because those roads lead back to self-worth. And it's this whole notion of, you know, and self-worth is something I'm really passionate about, because it's a journey that I'm on, and I help women with it, but I'm also on my own journey of it, and continuing to acknowledge, you know, that I'm enough and that I don't have to be the perfect partner. So what I unpacked this morning was like, I'm trying to live up to this expectation. I want to be the perfect partner for you, and I don't want to be messy, and I don't want to be difficult. And it's back to the journal part that I shared, right? Because if I'm all those things, I don't think you're going to stay with me. And so just by giving that room and that space, that emotional space, really built intimacy and connection with us. Like today, felt that at the end of it. I was like, thank you. I just needed to share that and know that it's okay for me to have these feelings, and that you can hold that space and listen. So then the last piece is that spiritual connection, that spiritual part. Where is your masculine and your feminine in the spiritual realm? You know, we all have wounds, generational wounds, life wounds, child wounds, and some of them, you know, we can treat with a masculine mindset and energy, and some with a feminine. And so there's a lot to unpack there. I'll actually do maybe a separate live on all of that, so that we can dig in deeper of what is the feminine spiritual like. Because she's definitely more like Mother Earth, where it's just allows. Not trying to rush through a season, not trying to figure it all out. Like, it just happens the way it needs to happen. So the number one thing, I also put that the number one, you know, the number one key to avoid self-sabotaging a relationship, if you are someone that gets in a relationship and then you self-sabotage over and over and over again, it's like a commitment thing maybe, is to really, back to what Mayan was saying with the clarity. Like, the more clear you can be with who you are and what you want, and put that in paper and set those boundaries, have that there, have that be your true north, so that you can continuously go back. Like, I can continuously go back to this note and be like, is Eric all of these things? This is what I want in love. And it's a definitive, absolutely yes, resounding yes. But there's always voices in the head, right? Trying to second guess things, or people trying to project things onto us. You know, someone just the other day was saying to him, like, you do realize your age difference. We've got an age difference, 17 years. And for a lot of people, that's like a non-starter. And I look at myself and I say, is that a non-starter for me? And the answer is no. I'm fine. I'm okay with it. But when I try to hold everyone else's expectations and worries and concerns, it feels like a lot. And so knowing who you are and what you're okay with and what is acceptable for you is going to make such a difference without not self-sabotaging. I was rereading what Eric had posted and sent to me about what he was looking in a partner. And I thought this was also interesting. And I asked for his permission if I could share it with you. And he said yes. And I think it's really interesting because he shared this to me pretty early on, like in meeting each other. He shared it with me 4 days into meeting each other. And I read it. And so he did the same exercise that Mayan is saying on his own. He got really clear of who he wanted and what that would look like. And so here's what he wrote, and then he shared it with me. I want an independent-minded woman, someone who can hold their own, has a brain, is passionate in their beliefs, a great sense of humor. They have to like kids, like a lot, because I'm the sort of big kid that they will need to appreciate that. And I laughed at that because I'm like, I got 4 kids. I know what it's like to be with kids. Adventurous. She has to want to explore and do crazy things on a whim. Be willing to give as well as accept. A dare on the spot. No control freaks, but I welcome someone who will balance my exuberance. She has to really, really, really want to enjoy life. I want to have an argument with this person about whether or not the sushi in Tokyo is better than San Francisco, then hop on a plane the next morning to Tokyo just to see who's right. That kind of amazing. My order of priorities in terms of connection is spiritual, then mental, then emotional, and then physical. They cannot be sexually repressed. No guilt-ridden types that only believe in making love with the lights off after 10 p.m. with the doors locked and the shades drawn. She has to be openly, confidently affectionate. I love giving and receiving affection, big time. And I want a woman who's comfortable grabbing me by a collar in a bar, kissing me hard on the lips because I drive her crazy and she can't contain herself. I want to be able to do the same to her. I want to be with someone who can let go just like that. I want crazy, wild love because that's what I deserve and that's what I'm destined to give to someone else. The most extraordinary experience of their life. I'm wired for amazing. That's who I am and what I do. And I want to find someone who wants an amazing life too. Many people say they want that, but what they actually want is certainty and visibility. I want this next chapter of my life to be full of twists, turns, and the unexpected. I read that and I was like, I fit that job description. I'm like, that's me. Like, I know I can fit in all those buckets. I know that that's in alignment with who I am. And I had gone on my own journey of who I am and what I'd wanted for like a year. And when I read that, I'm like, this is me to my core. And this is also me to the woman I have become. Because the old me wasn't really overly affectionate, like that feminine energy of like kind of gently, kissing and being with, like, is not necessarily in my DNA, but I like it. I like to receive it and I do like to give it. And that was a blind spot for me. And I didn't realize how much men appreciate that. So these are just some things. So the number one self-sabotaging tip is to get really clear and set your boundaries and then recheck them. And we change as people. So then it's even a recheck with ourselves. Is this still who I am? Is this still what I want? But you have to do that exercise on your own. You can do it with like a coach or something, but I don't strongly recommend you do it with someone else, like a friend or a buddy who has their own beliefs and what they want in a partner, because it's going to confuse you. There's no right or wrong in this, right? Even in the masculine and feminine, some women are more in the feminine energy and they really want the masculine, and some are more in the masculine and they want a man that maybe has, or woman that has more of that feminine energy. And that's okay. That's actually okay. So just being true to you and whatever that looks like is the key to all this. All right, thanks for staying a little extra with me. It's been wonderful. I will put in the comments Mayan's contact information, her website. So if you want to grab that guide, the 9 tips to attracting the partner, the free guide, you can grab it from her site. And I just wanted to close with, if there's any other people in your life that you think would be interested in wanting to play on the playground with me and do these lives, I'm all ears. I feel like everyone has a unique perspective, and it doesn't just have to be women necessarily. I mean, I'm open to anyone that wants to come in and have a lively, juicy discussion on a topic that you're passionate about. Let's play here and let's talk about it. Because I do believe that everyone has a story and a truth within them. And the more we share and unlock that, the more we give other people permission to do the same. All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful Friday. If you liked this and you want to join me on the 28th of October, I am doing a workshop, a 90-minute workshop. It's free. It's on Zoom. It's called the How to Awaken the Courageous Woman Within. And so this workshop is for women leaders. This is for women who are carrying their all together, like they carry the world of their work. They carry the world of their family. They're the strong one all the time, and you're tired, and you don't have a place where you can just exhale because you put on the strong suit. Like, that's what this workshop is going to be about, to give you that space to breathe and to open and to be and to kind of connect with your feminine power. It's going to be an interactive workshop, so you will be invited onto video and really be connecting and building connection with other women who can share that space with you. So if you're ready for that, if you're open to wanting to just hit pause and slow down and recharge yourself, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you a method that you can put into practice and you're going to experience in the workshop. So it's not going to be something you're just taking notes on. It's going to be something that you actually do with a partner. And it's really, I just actually did it with the women in my program last week and got the feedback from them. And they said, I didn't realize how much doing that little short exercise really relieved some of the pressure that I've been carrying. I didn't realize the clarity that it gave me, that I've been kind of repressing or ignoring. So that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be a lot of fun. I like to have fun. I like to do the work, but I like to have fun. So I see Watana Hughes, you want to join? Great. So I will put a link in there. I'll also put a link after this that is where you can register for it. You can RSVP. It's a big group of women, but we're going to have a lot of fun. So, and we're going to go there. We're going to touch this part of our body, our heart. Because I know you have a big heart. And you carry a lot for others, and you serve a lot for others all day long. We're going to fill you up with some of the love in your tank. All right, have a wonderful Friday. Thank you for being here. If you're watching the replay, thank you for joining, and I'll see you next Friday.